All right, hello class. Welcome to lesson 4 in unit 6. Okay, so I wanted to first call your attention to what we just started going over in the last activity in lesson 3. And it involves solving equations. We're actually trying to solve equations. We're trying to figure out what this missing number is. All right, and so what you might have noticed yesterday at the end was that in order to solve an equation, what we want to do is we want to try to get one side of the equation to just have only the letter, only in this case the x, right? In this case just the y. We want to get the letter by itself, and we want to move anything that's with it on that same side of the equal sign. So in this case, on the left side of the equal sign, away to the opposite side of the equal sign. And so what that means is we're going to end up doing the opposite operation. Okay, this is 3 times x equals 15. If we want to figure out what x is, we can do the opposite of times. We can divide. So once we decide that we're going to be dividing, then we need to do that to both sides of the equation. So in the case of this one here, what we're going to do to show division, we can show division a couple different ways, of course. One way that I think is easy for you to do is just to make it into a fraction bar. So we're going to divide, and remember, so if we're going to divide, we have to do that on both sides of the equal sign. We're going to do the same operation on both sides of the equal sign. So in this case, we're dividing by 3, right? We divide by 3, we divide by 3 here, okay? So we're doing this to both sides of the equal sign. 3 divided by 3, that's 1, but we don't actually have to write the 1. We can just write the x. We can break down the equal sign. And then 15 divided by 3, that's 5. All right? And so if we wanted to check it, we could put 5 back into the place of x. And so instead of it saying 3 times x equals 15, we can say 3 times 5 equals 15. And is that true? Yes, 3 times 5 is 15. So that's how we know that this is our answer. We can check that off. We can be certain that's the answer. And then for another example, we have y minus 3 equals 10. I do realize that many of you can already think of the number right away and you know what number is going to go there, but let me show you how to do this here by following the same idea that we just did. We're going to move everything away from the y that's on the same side of the equal sign with it to the opposite side. So in this case, we have a minus 3 here that we have to move to the opposite side, so we need to do the opposite of minus 3. Well, the opposite of minus 3, that's plus 3. Right? And then when we do that opposite operation, we do it on both sides. So we need to do plus 3 over here as well. And we need to see what this gives us here. So I've got a y. I'm going to go ahead and just bring this down. There's our y. Minus 3 and plus 3, these are what we can call a zero pair. They're going to cancel each other out. This is just 0. And then we have our equal sign we can bring down. And then we have 10 plus 3. And 10 plus 3, that's 13, right? So 13 minus 3 equals 10. Yes, 13 minus 3 does equal 10. So we can be certain that is correct. So that's the idea here. So in our first activity, first major activity of the lesson here, you're going to see 2 columns, and you're working with your partner, right? Each of you are doing one of these. Okay. Now, they go ahead and tell you right here your answers in each row should be the same, right? So that might be kind of interesting because if you look at the problems, it may be kind of hard to see that right away. Okay, but the idea for each of these is that you are getting the letter by itself by moving anything that is with that letter to the opposite side of the equal sign. So for example, here we have 18 equals 2x. Okay, we need to move the 2 away from the x. So we need to do the opposite operation of what's happening. This is 2 times x. We need to do the opposite of times, which is divide. So if we divide both sides by 2, this is going to give us, and I did make this smaller, it's going to give us x equals 9. Okay, and it works the same way here. 36 equals 4 times x. We're going to divide both sides by 4 here, and 36 divided by 4 also equals 9. So that's how they are the same. All right, so let's go ahead and move down to the next problem. 17 equals x plus 9, 13 equals x plus 5. In either case, in order to get the letter by itself, okay, we're going to need to move, in this case, we're going to need to subtract 9 from both sides, So 17 minus 9 will be what's happening here. Over here, we need to subtract 5 from both sides. 13 minus 5. In each case, x equals 8. All right, and for this one here, we have 8x equals 56. 3x equals 21. In each case, we have to move the number that is in front of the letter to the opposite side by doing the opposite. This is 8 times x. This is 3 times x. We do the opposite of times, which is divide. So we're going to divide by 8 on both sides here. We're going to divide by 3 on both sides here. In both cases, we're going to get x equals 7. All right. And then for the next one, we have 21 equals 1/4 x. 28 equals 1/3 x. Here, it's 1/4 times x. That means we need to divide by 1/4. If we divide by 1/4, that's the same thing as multiplying times 4. So this would be 21 times 4. Over here, we need to divide by 1/3. That's the same thing as multiplying by 3. So this is 28 times 3 is what you're going to get. So the idea is that you're going to end up having 21 times 4 and 28 times 3. And in both cases, x equals 84. Okay. All right. So for the next one, we have 6x equals 45. 8x equals 60. Okay. Here we need to divide by 6. Here we need to divide by 8. Now, a little mental math for you. 6 doesn't go into 45 evenly, so this might throw some of you off. But let's think about what number close to 45 6 does go into evenly. Well, I know it goes into 42. It goes into 42 7 times. And it goes into 48 8 times. So 45 is right in the middle of 42 and 48. So what we need is a number that's right in the middle of 7 and 8. And that's 7.5 or 7.5. Okay. All right. Next one here. X plus 4 and 5/6 equals 9. X plus 3 and 5/6 equals 8. In both cases here, we need to subtract by the mixed number. So we're going to have 9 minus 4 and 5/6 here. 8 minus 3 and 5/6 here. In either case, you're going to end up getting x equals 4 and 1/6. So let me actually draw the 1/6 then here. 4 and 1/6. Okay. All right. So for the next problem, 5/7 x equals 55. 3/7 x equals 33. In both cases, we need to divide by the fraction. So this is going to involve 55 divided by 5/7. This is going to involve 33 divided by 3/7. Now, let me show you here. Let's actually go ahead and I'm going to draw this problem out here. I think this is probably going to be a little bit hard for you guys to see. So 5/7x equals 55. Now, if we divide by 5/7 on both sides, remember, dividing by a fraction means we're actually going to be multiplying by the what we call the reciprocal, or the fraction flipped upside down. So this is going to be, we can think of this as being 55 divided by 5/7. But then we can actually kind of switch that around and say it's actually like the same thing as 55 times 7/5. We can see 55 as being 55/1. And a little bit of a trick that might help you here. 55 and 5, think about that as being a fraction. We can think of this as really being 11. And this can be 1. And so this really is going to equal 11 times 7. That's 77. And then 1 times 1 is 1, so we don't need to put it as 77 over 1 here. It's just 77. Okay, and it's going to work the same way for this one here. You're going to end up getting 33 divided by 3/7, which is the same thing as 33 times 7/3. And so again, you're going to get 77 for that one. All right, let me go ahead and clear this off, and then we go ahead and move on to the next item here. We have, get this all the way off. Okay, we have 1/5 equals 6x. Let me actually get back into here and add in this value. X equals 77. All right, so 1/5 equals 6x. We're going to need to divide by 6 here. It's going to be 1/5 divided by 6. Then here it's going to be 1/3 equals 10x. It's going to be divided by 10. 1/3 divided by 10. Let me just do this one here. So this is going to involve 1/3 divided by 10. Okay. Now, so again, what we can do to help make sense of this here is we can go ahead and take the 1/3 and say, okay, instead of dividing it by 10, we're going to say that we're going to multiply it times 1/10. Okay, because remember, we can switch that operation as long as we use the reciprocal here. So this is 10, or 10 over 1. If we flip it upside down, it's 1/10. So we end up getting 1 times 1, which is 1, and 3 times 10, which is 30. All right, so you actually get 1/30th for this one here. Same thing here, you're going to end up doing 1/5 divided by 6, which is the same thing as 1/5 times 1/6, which is, again, going to be 1/30th. Okay, so moving on to the next one, x equals 1/30th. All right, next item here, 2.17, 2 and 17/100ths, plus x equals 5. 6 and 17/100ths plus x equals 9. In either case, we're going to end up having to subtract by this number with the decimal. So 5 take away 2.17, 9 take away 6.17. Okay, you're going to get the same thing. We already know that, right? Let me go ahead and set that up for you so you can see what it looks like when we subtract that. So if we have, we'll do this one here. We'll do this one. 5 minus 2.17. Well, 2.17, if you'll notice here, 5 doesn't have a decimal. That means that the decimal is really actually here at the end. And so we need to fill in 2 zeros here. So we end up with 5.00 minus 2.17. Okay, 0 take away 7, we can't do that. So let's borrow from 50 and make it into 49. Think about this as being 49. And then this can become now 10. And so 10 take away 7 is 3. 9 take away 1 is 8. Bring our decimal point down. It's a little bit easier to read. And then 4 take away 2 is 2. So 2.83, or 2 and 83/100ths, is what we're going to get here. It's going to work the same way here. This would be 9 take away 6.17. And again, you get 2.83. All right, so x equals 2.83. All right, a couple more to go. So we have here 20 over 3 equals 10 ninths x, or 14 over 5 equals 7/15 x. We know already we're going to get the same answer, right? So we want to think about how are we going to go about doing that. And so what we need to do is we need to, here we need to divide by 10 ninths. Here we need to divide by 7/15. Okay, so I'll do one of these here. Why don't let's do this right side here. So 14/5. And then so we would have to divide by 7/15, right? Because what you see right there in the problem is 7/15 times x, right? 7/15 times x, so we're doing the opposite operation. So we're going to divide by 7/15. And so this brings us back into unit 4, I guess, is where we would have spent a lot of time on this here. So we're dividing by a fraction, so that means we're going to multiply times the reciprocal. So this is really 14/5 times 15 over 7. And this is definitely going to be one where if you are comfortable with the cross canceling, it's going to make your time much easier here. I can see here 14 over 7, that's really the same thing as 2 over 1. And then we have 15 over 5. Well, that's really the same thing as 3 over 1. And so what we're really doing is we're doing 2 times 3, that's 6, over 1 times 1, which is 1. And we don't need to write 6 over 1 because 6 over 1 is 6. All right, so x equals 6 for that one. X equals 6. All right, and then the next one here, 14.88 plus x equals 17.05, 3.91 plus x equals 6.08. In both of these cases here, we need to subtract this number here. In this case, it involves decimals on both problems. So here we would subtract 14.88. Here we subtract 3.91. I've already gone over one little review problem with the subtracting decimals here, so I'm just going to go ahead and share with you that your answer is going to be 2.17. Okay, x equals 2.17. And then for the, I guess the last problem here, we have 3 3/4 x equals 1 1/4. Also 7/5 x equals 7/15. In both cases, we need to divide. We need to divide by the number that is next to the x. So here we're going to divide by 3 3/4. Here we're going to divide by 7/5. Okay, I'll do this problem on the left here. And so let's see what we have. So we're going to be dividing 1 1/4 by 3 3/4. We have, this is 3 3/4 times x. We need to divide and divide. So we need to take 1 1/4, 1 1/4, and we're going to divide that by 3 3/4. So let's see what this is going to be like here. Divide by 3 3/4. Remember that when we are doing calculations with mixed numbers, I recommend that you go ahead and switch these to fractions to make them easier to work with. So 1 1/4, if we do our little around the world routine, 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So this is really going to be 5/4. And this is really going to be, let's see, 3 times 4 is 12, plus 3 is 15 over 4. Okay, divided by what we're doing here. And then remember the rules that when we're dividing by a fraction, we need to, it's easier to go ahead and flip it to multiplication and flip the second fraction upside down, the reciprocal. So that's going to be 4 over 15. And again, we have a chance here to do some canceling, which will make things a lot easier. 4 over 4, that's easy. That's really going to be just 1 over 1. And then 5 over 15, that's really just going to be 1/3. So we have 1 times 1, that's 1. 1 times 3, that's 3. So we get 1/3 as our answer. X equals 1/3. All right. Hope this helps.